the vibration came first. A low, almost imperceptible hum beneath the polished floor of the orbital station Aegis 7, so subtle that most of the crew ignored it. But Lieutenant Armin Hale didn't. He paused mid-step along the observation corridor, his eyes narrowing slightly as he felt it again, through his boots, through his bones. Not mechanical. Not routine. Wrong. Beyond the reinforced glass stretched the silent vastness of space, Earth hanging below like a fragile blue ember wrapped in drifting clouds. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Station diagnostics, Armin said quietly, tapping the interface on his wrist. Report structural anomalies. A calm synthetic voice responded instantly. All systems operating within optimal parameters. Of course they were. Armin exhaled slowly, but his gaze didn't move from the stars. That's when he saw it. At first, it looked like a distortion, like heat rippling through air that didn't exist. A bend in reality itself, subtle but undeniable, just beyond the orbital boundary. Light warped around it unnaturally, stars stretching into thin lines before snapping back into place. Then it expanded. The distortion unfolded like something waking up. And from within it, something emerged. Armin's breath caught. The object was massive, impossibly massive. It didn't glide into view like a ship. It revealed itself, as if space had been hiding it. Its structure was unlike anything in human records. No sharp edges, no visible engines, no symmetry that made sense. Its surface shimmered with a pale, bone-like sheen, layered and organic, like armor grown rather than built. It dwarfed everything. The International Defense Grid. The orbital platforms. Even Aegis 7 itself. For a moment, Armin forgot to breathe. "Control," he said, voice tighter now. "I need visual confirmation on." The station lights flickered. Twice. Then stabilized. Across the corridor, other crew members had stopped. Conversations died mid-sentence. Eyes turned toward the same impossible sight. "Lieutenant," someone whispered behind him. Armin didn't turn. "I see it." A new alert flashed across his interface. Unprompted, unauthorized. Unknown object detected origin. Non-local space size. Unresolvable. Unresolvable. That word didn't exist in standard classification. His pulse quickened. "Control, do you have this contact?" he demanded. This time, there was a delay. Too long. Finally, the response came, but the calm tone was gone. "All stations stand by." Another pause. This is not a drill. The massive object shifted. Not moving forward. Not accelerating. Just adjusting. Like it had noticed them. Armin felt a chill crawl up his spine as a single thought settled in, heavy and undeniable. This thing hadn't just arrived. It had been there. Watching. And now, it was done hiding. Seal the observation deck. No external transmissions without command authorization. Commander Alina Voss didn't raise her voice, but the entire control room moved instantly. Armin stepped in just as the blast doors behind him slid shut with a heavy metallic thud. The command center of Aegis 7 had transformed in seconds from routine operations to controlled chaos. Officers rushed between stations, data streams flooding every display. And at the center of it all, the object, now magnified across the primary screen. Up close, it was worse. What had seemed smooth and bone-like from a distance was actually layered, interlocking plates, each subtly shifting, like a living structure adjusting to unseen pressures. No visible seams. No propulsion. No heat signature. No logic. "Range?" Voss asked. "Still stabilizing," replied a sensor officer, fingers flying across the console. "It's not locking properly. Readings keep fluctuating." Define fluctuating. The pause. "It's changing size." Silence rippled across the room. "That's not possible," someone muttered. "I didn't say it was," the officer replied, not looking up. Armin moved closer to the central display, eyes scanning the data overlays. Distance estimates flickered, 50,000 kilometers, 70, then suddenly 20. Not moving. Just redefined. "Is it cloaked?" Armin asked. "No cloak behaves like this," Voss said sharply. Cloaks hide. This thing, she gestured toward the screen, doesn't want to be measured. That landed heavier than anyone expected. Commander, another voice called out. We're detecting emissions. Every head turned. Type. Unknown. It's not electromagnetic. Not gravitational. The officer hesitated. It's structured. Structured how? Like a signal, he said quietly. But not one we can decode. Armin felt his pulse tick up again. A signal implies intent, he said. Voss didn't respond immediately. Her eyes were locked on the screen, calculating. Broadcast status? She asked. Nothing directed at us, communications replied. If it is a signal, it's not targeting any known frequency bands. So it's talking, Armin said, just not to us. Or not in a way we understand, Voss corrected. A sharp tone cut through the room. Priority alert. Earth command link established. The main display split, revealing a secure feed from planetary command. Multiple officials appeared, military, scientific, political. Their expressions were already tense. They had seen it. Commander Voss, one of them began, we need immediate assessment. Voss didn't hesitate. Unknown object of non-terrestrial origin. Size and distance currently unquantifiable. No identifiable propulsion, no standard emissions. Possible signal detected, structure unknown. Threat level? The beat. Then carefully. Indeterminate. That word again. Not reassuring. Has it made any hostile movement? No, Voss said. But it has adjusted orientation. Toward what? This time, Voss didn't answer immediately. Armin already knew. Toward us, he said quietly. The room felt smaller. On the screen, one of the officials leaned forward. Define, toward us. Armin stepped closer to the console, pulling up the vector overlay. A faint line extended from the object's current orientation. Straight through Aegis 7. Straight Earth. It's not moving, he said. But if it does... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. A new alert flashed across every screen simultaneously. Incoming transmission detected. Communications froze for half a second. Origin confirmed, the officer said, voice tight. It's coming from the object. No one spoke. No one moved. Commander Voss exhaled slowly. Can we translate? Attempting now, but... He swallowed. It's already adapting. Adapting? Armin repeated. Yes, ma'am, the officer said, eyes wide now. It's cycling through patterns, structures. He stopped. Then, almost in disbelief. It's learning our language. A faint, rhythmic pulse echoed through the station, low, deliberate. Not mechanical. Intentional. The main screen flickered. Symbols appeared, garbled at first, shifting, correcting themselves in real time. Letters. Words. Forming. Armin felt the weight of the moment settle in his chest. Whatever this was, it wasn't just observing anymore. It was preparing to speak. The screen stabilized. The shifting symbols locked into place. Imperfect at first, letters forming with slight distortions, as if the system itself was unsure of their shape. Then the distortion vanished. Precise. Fluent. Every monitor across Aegis 7 synchronized, the same message appearing in stark white text against a dark void. We have observed you. No one spoke. Even the background hum of the station felt quieter now, as if the entire structure was listening. Commander Voss stepped forward. Open a channel. Channel open, communications confirmed, though his voice had lost its earlier confidence. Voss didn't hesitate. Unidentified vessel. This is Commander Alina Voss of Orbital Station Aegis 7, representing Earth's unified command. You are entering controlled space. State your intentions. The pause. Not a technical delay. A decision. Then the text changed. You designate this region as controlled. Inaccurate. A ripple of unease moved through the room. Armin felt it too, not fear exactly, but something sharper. Displacement. The message continued, each line appearing with deliberate timing. We do not seek territory. We do not seek resources. Voss's eyes narrowed. Then why are you here? For a fraction of a second, nothing happened. The main display shifted. The external camera feed vanished, replaced by something else entirely. A rotating model. But not as humans mapped it. Layers unfolded across the holographic projection, grids, symbols, classifications written in a language that only partially translated. Sections pulsed in varying intensities, like a diagnostic scan of a living organism. Armin stepped closer without realizing it. "What is this?" he whispered. The answer came immediately. Classification, Death World. The words hit harder than any weapon. Silence followed. Not confusion. One of the Earth officials on the secure link spoke first. "Define Death World." The display zoomed. Atmospheric composition highlighted. Oxygen levels flashed in warning tones. Temperature ranges expanded across extremes. Seismic activity. Radiation zones. Predatory density. Each metric layered over the last, until Earth looked less like a home and more like a hazard. Environmental parameters, hostile to most known life. Survivability index, critical. Armin felt his jaw tighten. "This is our home," he said under his breath. The response was immediate. "Correct." That single word landed with unsettling weight. The projection shifted again. Now, human figures, biological scans, musculature, skeletal resilience, regeneration rates. Comparative overlays appeared beside them. Other species, weaker, more fragile. The difference was obvious. Uncomfortable. Species designation, human. Adaptation level, extreme. Voss's voice hardened. "You're analyzing us. We are evaluating you." The pause. The line that changed everything. "You are not a developing species." Armin's heartbeat slowed, like his body was bracing for impact. "You are a containment risk." The room erupted. "That's absurd. Containment? On what authority? This is a violation of—" "Quiet!" Voss snapped, cutting through the noise. Her eyes never left the screen. "Explain," she said, controlled but sharp. For the first time, there was a delay. Longer than before. Deliberate. Then the answer came. "Your environment creates survivors. Your biology enables persistence. Your behavior demonstrates escalation under pressure." Each line struck harder than the last. "You do not withdraw. You do not submit. You adapt. Until opposition fails." Armin felt something shift inside him. Not fear. Recognition. The final line appeared slowly, as if the entity wanted them to fully understand it. "This pattern is consistent with expansionist predator species." The beat. "You are not being welcomed." Every eye in the room locked onto the screen. "You are being contained." No one argued this time. The word contained lingered in the air like something toxic, unseen, but suffocating. Commander Voss didn't raise her voice again. She didn't need to. "Define containment parameters," she said, steady and precise. The response came instantly. "Boundary protocol initiated. Your species will remain within this system." Armin stepped forward. "And if we don't?" The pause. Not hesitation. Calculation. Non-compliance will result in corrective action. That wasn't a threat. It was procedure. Voss crossed her arms. "You're making assumptions about a species you've just encountered." The display shifted again. But this time, it wasn't abstract data. It was evidence. A sequence of visual reconstructions unfolded across the screen. A human figure, injured. Bone fracture highlighted in red. Moments later, standing again. Another sequence, extreme cold. Ice forming across exposed skin. Still moving. Another, heat, fire, environmental collapse. Still surviving. Armin felt a strange tension in his chest as he watched something so familiar, presented like a biological anomaly. Your species continues functional activity beyond standard failure thresholds. The projection zoomed further. Muscle fatigue indicators. Oxygen deprivation. Pain response. All exceeded. You define limits, then operate beyond them. A murmur spread through the room. Not denial this time. Recognition. The feed shifted again. Now, historical patterns. Human conflict. Exploration routes. Expansion maps stretching from continent to orbit. Each marked with the same annotation. Escalation under resistance. Voss's jaw tightened. You're reducing us to data points. We are identifying patterns. Another shift. Predators. Alien species appeared beside the human model. Faster. Stronger. More efficient hunters by every measurable metric. Yet one by one, each simulation ended the same way. Human persistence outlasting them. Armin frowned. That's not accurate. Correction. IT is incomplete. The display updated. Now the simulations extended further. Longer timelines. Fatigue curves. Behavioral adaptation. Tool usage. Strategy shifts. Every scenario converged on the same conclusion. Not immediate dominance. Eventual inevitability. Armin exhaled slowly. We don't win fast, he said quietly. The system responded. You win eventually. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. Commander Voss stepped closer to the display. So that's it? You've decided we're dangerous because we survive. For the first time, the response came slower. Measured. The projection changed one final time. Not biology. Not environment. Behavior. A human figure, lifting another, injured. Sharing resources. Defending weaker members of its group. Cooperation patterns highlighted in bright contrast. The room stilled. Even Armin hadn't expected this. This is the primary anomaly. Voss narrowed her eyes. Explain. Predator species prioritize dominance hierarchies. Resource control. Competitive elimination. The pause. You do not. The visuals intensified, groups forming, building, protecting. Scaling. Civilizations. You cooperate. You preserve non-optimal individuals. You increase collective survivability. Armin felt the weight of it now. Not accusation. Assessment. And somehow, that was worse. This behavior creates exponential growth. The final line appeared slowly, deliberately. A persistent predator that cooperates is not balanced by natural limits. A long silence followed. It expands. Commander Voss didn't speak immediately. When she did, her voice was quieter, but sharper than before. So you're not afraid of what we are, she said. The beat. Then the answer. We are not afraid. Another pause. Longer. Heavier. We are preventing what you will become. Armin stared at the screen, something cold settling in his chest. Not anger. Not fear. Something else. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure they were wrong. 6 weeks later, Dr. Rehan Malik pressed his palm lightly against the transparent barrier and watched the corridor beyond. They always slowed down when they passed. Some stopped completely. Others pretended not to look, but their bodies gave them away. Subtle shifts in posture. Increased distance. Hands hovering near devices that were almost certainly weapons. He had seen that behavior before. Just never directed at himself. Observation again? A voice came from behind him. Rehan turned. The speaker stood several meters away, deliberately. Tall, slender, covered in layered, scale-like plating that reflected the sterile white light of the chamber. Its posture was controlled, but not relaxed. Nothing here was relaxed around him. I was stretching, Rehan replied calmly. You should try it. Apparently, it's terrifying. The alien didn't react immediately. Your humor patterns are difficult to categorize. Rehan smiled faintly. Yeah, I get that a lot. This was Research Station Helix 9, or at least that was the closest translation their systems could produce. Suspended somewhere beyond the outer edge of the solar system, it existed in a quiet orbit around nothing in particular. A controlled environment. For study. For containment. For him. You requested my presence, Rehan said, stepping away from the barrier. The alien inclined its head slightly. This new comparative data requires verification. Verification, Rehan repeated. That's a comforting word. No response. It turned and began moving toward the exit. Rehan followed, noting, as always, how the doors opened just a fraction earlier for the alien than for him. Subtle, but intentional. The corridor outside was wide, sterile, and too quiet. Other beings moved through it. Different shapes, different structures, different methods of locomotion. Every single one reacted the same way. Distance. Space opened in front of him like an invisible barrier pushed everything aside. One of them, a smaller, multi-limbed creature, actually pressed itself flat against the wall as he passed. Rehan slowed. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. It didn't respond. Didn't even move. He kept walking. "They've never seen a human before," his guide said without turning. "Only the data." "Yeah," Rehan muttered. "And the data's doing a great job." They entered a lab chamber. The temperature dropped immediately. At the center of the room, contained within a reinforced field, was a creature unlike anything Rehan had seen before. Dense musculature. Multiple limbs. Eyes adapted for low-light environments. Predator. No question. Designation? Rehan asked. Origin. Karth Delta, the alien replied. Apex organism within its biosphere. Rehan stepped closer to the field, studying it. It was impressive. Fast twitch musculature. Claw density. Reaction potential. On paper, it should dominate. "And you want to compare it to Oimi?" he asked. "Not you individually," the alien said. "Your species baseline." Rehan folded his arms. "I'm not exactly representative." "Correction," the alien replied. "You are within average human parameters." He raised an eyebrow. "That's mildly insulting." No reaction again. Typical. The tests began. Simulations first, movement, reaction, endurance. As expected, the creature outperformed human baselines in nearly every short-term metric. Strength. Explosive force. Rehan nodded. "Yeah, that tracks." The observing scientists seemed relieved. Until the next phase. "Extend duration," one of them said. The simulation recalibrated. Time stretched. Fatigue factors introduced. Recovery cycles measured. Rehan watched the data shift. Slowly, then sharply. The predator's performance curve dropped. Not failure, just decline. Normal. Expected. The human curve didn't. It flattened. Then stabilized. Surpassed. The room went quiet. "No," one of the observers said. "Rerun." They did. Same result. Rehan exhaled slowly. "We're not built for short bursts," he said. "We're built to keep going." No one responded. Another simulation loaded. Environmental stress. Temperature extremes. Oxygen reduction. Toxin exposure thresholds. The creature failed early in multiple scenarios. The human baseline. Adjusted. Persisted. Rehan rubbed the back of his neck. "Look, it's not as impressive as it looks. We just don't stop easily." Silence. Then the alien beside him spoke. Quietly. "Your species continues activity, after biological indicators suggest termination." Rehan gave a small shrug. "Yeah, that's kind of our thing." He turned to look at them. Really look this time. Every observer had stepped back. Not dramatically. Not suddenly. But enough. Enough to confirm what he had been noticing since day one. "You're afraid of us," he said. The nearest alien didn't deny it. Didn't argue. It just responded with cold, clinical precision. "We are adjusting our risk models." Rehan let out a quiet breath. "That's a yes." He glanced back at the creature in the containment field. Powerful, efficient, perfectly evolved for its world. Still, not the most dangerous thing in the room. That realization settled in slowly. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Because for the first time since arriving here, Rehan understood exactly how they saw him. Not as a guest. Not even as a subject. But as something far more unsettling. A proof of concept. The alarm didn't sound like anything Rehan had heard before. It wasn't sharp. It wasn't urgent. It was wrong. A low, warping tone that seemed to vibrate through the walls themselves, bending slightly in pitch like it couldn't decide what it was supposed to be. Rehan looked up from his console instantly. Across the lab, every alien froze. Then chaos. Lights shifted to a dim, pulsing amber. The containment field around the Karth Delta Predator flickered, once, then stabilized. Status! Rehan called out. No one answered him. They were already moving, fast, precise, but not coordinated. Not like humans under pressure. Each individual reacted independently, retreating toward exits, accessing panels, initiating protocols. Hey! Rehan stepped forward. What's happening? Finally, one of them responded, voice tight. Atmospheric breach. Sector 4. Rehan's stomach dropped. Sector 4. This lab. What kind of breach? No answer. That was answer enough. A hiss cut through the room. Subtle at first. Then louder. Rehan turned. A fracture had formed along one of the containment conduits near the ceiling. From it, a thin stream of greenish vapor spilled into the air, almost beautiful in how it curled and spread. Almost. Seal it, someone shouted. Containment systems are failing. Evacuate, now. The word echoed. Evacuate. The aliens didn't hesitate. They moved. Doors slid open. Bodies cleared the room in seconds. Except, not all of them. Rehan's eyes locked onto one figure near the far console. Collapsed. Not moving. Hey, he shouted. Can you hear me? No response. The vapor thickened. Rehan felt it hit him a second later. A sharp, metallic taste at the back of his throat. His lungs tightened reflexively. Toxic. Definitely toxic. His instincts kicked in. But he didn't move. Instead, he grabbed the edge of his shirt and pulled it up over his nose, taking a shallow breath. Then he ran toward the fallen alien. Every step felt heavier. The air was changing. Not enough to drop him immediately, but enough to make his body protest. His vision blurred slightly at the edges. Stay with me, he muttered, reaching the alien and dropping to one knee. Up close, its scales had dulled, color fading toward a pale gray. Bad sign. All right, Rehan slid his arms under it. Let's move. It was lighter than he expected, but awkward. Not built for carrying. He lifted anyway. His lungs burned now. Each breath shallower than the last. One step, then another. The door. 10 meters. Too far. He adjusted his grip and pushed harder. The vapor thickened behind him, spreading faster now. He could hear distant alarms layering over each other, overlapping systems trying to compensate. Not working. 5 meters. His legs felt heavier. Muscles protesting. Chest tightening. Not today, he muttered under his breath. Come on. 3 meters. The door began to close. Hey, he shouted. Hold it. For a split second, nothing. The door hesitated. Just enough. Rehan lunged forward, pushing through the narrowing gap and stumbling into the corridor beyond. Clean air hit him like a shock. He dropped to one knee, still holding the alien, coughing hard as his lungs tried to reset. Around him, security units and medical personnel froze. Not because he had come out. Because of how he had. One of them stepped forward slowly. That exposure level, it said, voice unsteady. You should be non-functional. Rehan coughed again, waving a hand. Yeah, working on that. He carefully lowered the alien onto the floor. It needs help. Now. The medical team didn't move immediately. They were staring at him. At his breathing. At the fact that he was still conscious. Still moving. Move. Rehan snapped, sharper now. That broke the moment. They rushed forward, lifting the alien onto a transport platform and moving quickly down the corridor. Rehan leaned back against the wall, dragging in a deeper breath this time. Still burning. Still wrong. But manageable. Footsteps approached. Slow. Measured. The lead researcher, the same one who had been guiding him, stopped several meters away. Closer than usual. But not close enough. You entered a lethal environment, it said. Rehan shrugged weakly. Yeah, wasn't ideal. You remained functional beyond projected thresholds. Story of my life. The pause. You prioritized another organism's survival over your own. Rehan glanced toward the direction they had taken the injured alien. It was the right call. Silence stretched between them. Then the researcher spoke again. Quieter this time. Your species profile is incomplete. Rehan let out a tired breath. Yeah, he said. You're starting to get that. More figures had gathered now, at a distance. Watching. Not with panic. Not even with fear, exactly. Something more complex. Reassessment. Rehan pushed himself up slowly, steadying against the wall. Let me guess, he said, voice rough but steady. Risk model just went up again. No one answered him directly. They didn't need to. Because this time, they weren't just observing data. They had seen it. A human walking into something that should have killed him. And walking back out. Not alone. The chamber was not designed for comfort. That much was obvious. Circular. Every surface smooth and seamless, like it had been grown rather than constructed. Light pulsed faintly through the walls, not from a source but from the material itself. A void. No table. No barrier. Just open space where decisions were made. Dr. Rehan Malik stood alone within it. Observed from every angle. Above him, around him, the representatives of the Virex collective watched in absolute silence. Different forms. Different structures. Different evolutionary paths. But one shared trait. Distance. Always distance. You have been evaluated. A voice resonated through the chamber. Not spoken. Projected. It came from everywhere at once. Rehan folded his arms. I'm starting to feel like that's your favorite word. No reaction. Expected. Your recent actions, the voice continued, have introduced variance into established projections. Variance, Rehan repeated. That's one way to put it. A new presence entered the chamber, taller than the others, its form layered with denser plating, markings etched across its surface like symbols of rank. Rehan recognized it immediately. High-tier authority. Decision maker. Clarify, the figure said. Rehan glanced up. Clarify what? You exposed yourself to a lethal compound, it said. You survived. You preserved another organism. These outcomes conflict with dominant behavioral models. Rehan shrugged. Or your models are incomplete. A ripple passed through the chamber, not emotional, not exactly. More like a shift in attention. The central projection activated. Not visuals this time. Data streams. Simulations. Hundreds of them. Rehan watched as scenarios unfolded. Humans expanding beyond Earth. Establishing colonies. Encountering resistance. Every branch diverged. Some peaceful. The results converged on a single metric. Escalation probability, increasing. The chamber dimmed slightly. Then the voice returned. There are divisions within this council. Rehan raised an eyebrow. Yeah, let me guess. Some of you want to keep watching. The pause. Correct. And the others? Another pause. Longer. Heavier. Elimination is being considered. The word didn't echo. It didn't need to. Rehan didn't flinch, but something in his posture tightened. Define elimination, he said. No one answered immediately. Then the central figure spoke. Preemptive neutralization of your species before off-world expansion becomes viable. Straightforward. Clinical. Terrifying. Rehan exhaled slowly. So that's it? You're scared of what we might become. The response came sharp. We are responding to what you will become. The projection shifted again. Surrounded. Not by one ship. By many. Formation patterns. Strategic positioning. Containment grid. Rehan's jaw tightened. How long? He asked. Decision threshold is approaching. That's not what I asked. The chamber fell silent again. Your temporal scale, weeks. Weeks. Not years. Not decades. Weeks. Rehan looked up at them, really looked this time. You've already started preparing, he said. No denial. No confirmation. Just silence. Which meant yes. Some within this council, the voice continued, advocate for controlled integration, limited engagement, gradual exposure. And the others? Rehan pressed. View your species as an existential variable that must be removed. He let that sit for a moment. So I'm here to what? Convince you we're not dangerous? The central figure stepped slightly closer to the edge of the chamber. Your presence here is not diplomatic. Rehan's eyes narrowed. It is evidentiary. That word hit differently. Not a guest. Not an ambassador. Evidence. The test case. A living argument. Rehan let out a quiet breath. And what happens if I fail your evaluation? The answer came without delay. Your outcome will not alter the final decision. Cold. Absolute. For the first time since arriving on Helix 9. Rehan felt it. Not fear. Not exactly. Pressure. Real pressure. Because this wasn't about him anymore. It was about Earth. About billions of people who had no idea a decision like this was even being discussed. You're making a mistake, he said finally. Clarify. Rehan's gaze hardened. You think containment will work, that you can draw a line and will just stay behind it. A faint shift in the chamber, attention focusing tighter. You've been watching us, he continued. Then you should already know that's not how we work. No response. Just observation. Rehan gave a small, humorless smile. Barriers don't stop us, he said. They just give us something to break. Silence followed. Heavy. A new alert pulsed through the chamber. Urgent. Unplanned. Every observer shifted. Data streams flooded the projection space, faster than before. Uncontrolled. For the first time since he had arrived here, something had disrupted them. What is it? One of the council demanded. A response came, sharp and immediate. External signal, priority level override. Rehan's pulse ticked up. External. From where? The chamber lights dimmed further as a new transmission forced its way into the system. Unfiltered. Uninvited. The display flickered. And locked. A single line appeared. Human. We know what you're planning. Rehan stared at it. Then slowly, he smiled. The arena was not built for spectacle. It was built for measurement. A vast, circular expanse enclosed by transparent energy barriers, its surface shifting subtly beneath the feet, adjusting density, friction, even gravity in real time. Above, layered observation tiers held representatives from across the Virex collective. No cheering. No noise. Just watching. Analyzing. Judging. Dr. Rehan Malik stood at the edge of the platform beside 3 other figures, each from a different world, each selected as the optimal representative of their species. He didn't look like he belonged there. And that was the point. A voice resonated through the structure. Comparative evaluation will proceed. Rehan exhaled slowly. Of course it will. To his left stood a towering, heavily muscled being with plated skin that looked like it could deflect artillery. To his right, something leaner, multi-jointed, built for speed. The third competitor hovered slightly above the ground, its form semi-fluid, shifting with controlled precision. All of them glanced at him. Not with arrogance. With caution. That hadn't changed. The first trial, the voice continued, measures sustained physical output under escalating environmental stress. Rehan cracked his neck slightly. So, running. No response. The floor beneath them shifted. Tracks formed. Circular, hillis. Gravity increased. Slight at first. Then more. Begin. They moved instantly. The larger creatures surged forward with explosive force, covering distance in massive strides. The multi-jointed one accelerated with frightening speed, its limbs blurring. Rehan started slower. Measured. Controlled. Breathing steady. He didn't try to match their pace. He didn't need to. Minutes passed. Then more. Gravity increased again. The heavier competitor began to slow, subtly at first, then visibly. Its movements remained powerful, but less efficient. The fast one compensated, adjusting stride, conserving energy. Rehan kept going. Same pace. Same rhythm. Sweat formed at his temples. Breathing deepened. But his stride didn't break. The environment shifted. Temperature dropped sharply. Frost formed along the surface. One competitor slipped, recovered, but lost momentum. Rehan adjusted his footing. Kept moving. Temperature spiked next. Heat rolled across the arena like a wave. The air thinned. Oxygen levels dropped. The hovering competitor faltered, its form destabilizing. The large one stopped entirely. Collapsed. The fast one pushed further. Then staggered. Then stopped. Only one set of footsteps remained. Rehan's. Slow. Steady. Unstoppable. Up in the observation tiers, movement increased. Not panic. Not yet. But something close. Trial complete, the voice announced. Rehan slowed to a stop, hands on his hips, breathing hard but controlled. Told you, he muttered under his breath. We don't win fast. No one responded. But the data had already been recorded. And it wasn't comforting. The second trial, the voice continued, evaluates adaptive problem-solving under constraint. The arena shifted again. A structure. Complex. Layered mechanisms, moving parts, shifting pathways. Physical puzzles integrated with logical sequences. Timed elements. Each competitor stepped into a separate section. Rehan looked around. Hey, this is new. The challenge began. The multi-jointed competitor excelled immediately, manipulating multiple components at once, solving mechanical sequences with incredible efficiency. The hovering entity processed patterns rapidly, predicting outcomes before they fully formed. Rehan observed. He didn't rush. Didn't react immediately. He watched the system. Patterns. Timing. Failure points. Then he moved. Not as fast. Not as precise. But different. He didn't just solve the puzzle. He changed how he approached it. Using parts of the environment in unintended ways. Leveraging timing delays. Forcing system resets that gave him advantages. Not optimal, but effective. In the end, he didn't finish first. Second. Close. But what mattered wasn't placement. It was method. Because when the observers reviewed the data, they saw something they didn't like. Unpredictability. The final trial, the voice said, is controlled combat. Rehan exhaled slowly. Here we go. A new figure entered the arena. Larger than the others. Heavier. Scarred. This one wasn't just optimized. It was experienced. Designed for one thing. Winning fights. It stopped several meters from Rehan. Studying him. Rehan raised his hands slightly. Let me guess. You're the part where I'm supposed to lose. No response. The signal sounded. The creature moved first. Too fast. A direct strike aimed at ending the fight immediately. Rehan didn't block. He shifted. Redirected. Used the creature's momentum against it. The impact missed. And the creature stumbled forward, off balance for just a fraction of a second. That was enough. Rehan didn't overpower it. He didn't try. He adapted. Every movement reactive. Every step calculated. Avoid. Redirect. Exclude. The fight didn't last long. Because it couldn't. Not against something that refused to engage on expected terms. Within minutes, the creature was on the ground. Not unconscious. But unable to continue. Rehan stepped back, breathing harder now. Bruised. But standing. Silence filled the arena. Absolute. Movement above. Not just attention now. Concern. Because this wasn't just about strength. Or speed. Or intelligence. It was about something far worse. A species that didn't follow predictable rules. Rehan looked up at them, chest rising and falling. You wanted to see what we can do, he said quietly. No one responded. But the conclusion was already forming in their systems. Every trial, every metric, every result pointed to the same outcome. Humans didn't dominate any single category. They dominated the system itself. And that made them dangerous in a way no model could fully contain. The room was too quiet. Not the calm silence of control. The kind that comes after a decision has already been made. Dr. Rehan Malik stood at the center of the command chamber aboard Aegis 7, surrounded by projections, fleet movements, energy signatures, trajectories converging from multiple vectors. None of them friendly. They've committed, Commander Voss said, her voice low but firm. No hesitation. No doubt. Armin Hale stared at the tactical display, watching red markers multiply across the outer edge of the system. How many? He asked. Confirmed contacts, 83, a systems officer replied. Long-range scans suggest additional vessels outside detection range. Armin exhaled slowly. That's not a containment fleet. No, Voss said. It's not. No one said the word. They didn't need to. Extermination. The projection zoomed. Lines extended from each incoming vessel, intersecting paths forming a tightening grid around Earth's orbital space. Precise. Mathematical. Unavoidable. They're not rushing, Armin noted. They're positioning. Layered approach, Voss replied. Cut off escape vectors first. Then isolate. Then what? The pause. Then they decide how to end it. Rehan stepped forward, eyes locked on the data. They're not unified, he said. Voss glanced at him. Explain. The council is divided, Rehan continued. Some of them want integration. Others want us gone before we spread. Armin frowned. And the ones out there? Rehan didn't look away from the screen. Those aren't the patient ones. Silence. Heavy. Time estimate? Voss asked. Outer perimeter breach in 12 hours, the officer replied. Inner defensive range in 18. Armin gave a short, humorless laugh. 18 hours to figure out how to survive a fleet we can't even fight. No one corrected him. Because he was right. The next projection loaded. Earth's defenses. Orbital platforms. Lunar installations. Mars outposts. All highlighted. All calculated. All available assets online, the officer said. But even at full capacity, he didn't finish. He didn't need to. The comparison was already displayed. Human capability versus Virex fleet output. It wasn't close. Rehan leaned back slightly, running a hand through his hair. They don't want to fight, he said quietly. Armin turned. That's a strange way of showing it. They don't want a long fight, Rehan corrected. They want it controlled. Predictable. Voss crossed her arms. And you think we can give them that? Rehan shook his head slowly. No, he said. The pause. That's exactly what we can't do. Armin stared at him. You've got something. Say it. Rehan hesitated. Not because he didn't have an idea. Because he did. And it was insane. They're afraid of us, he said. Voss's expression hardened. We've established that. No, Rehan said, sharper now. Not just cautious. Not just concerned. Afraid. He stepped toward the central display, pulling up archived data, alien behavioral responses, distance patterns, risk models. They don't understand us, he continued. Not completely. And that scares them more than anything else. Armin frowned. That's not a strategy. That's a problem. Rehan looked at him. It's both. Another alert flashed. Closer now. The fleet had advanced. Faster than projected. Outer units accelerating, the officer reported. They're tightening formation. Voss stepped forward. They're not waiting. No, Rehan said quietly. They're committing. For the first time since this began, a real weight settled over the room. Not panic. Not chaos. Something worse. Finality. Because every calculation led to the same conclusion. If this turned into a direct confrontation, humanity would lose. Not eventually. Not over time. Immediately. Armin clenched his jaw. So what's the move? We hit first? Try to break formation? With what? Voss replied. We don't have the firepower. Then we run. And go where? She shot back. Silence again. Every option collapsed the moment it was spoken. Rehan stared at the incoming fleet markers. Dozens. Perfectly aligned. Perfectly controlled. Predictable. That word stuck. Predictable. They think they understand us, he said slowly. Voss looked at him again. Rehan. They've studied everything, he continued. Our biology. Our behavior. Our history. Turned. Eyes sharper now. Focused. But all of it is based on patterns. Armin's expression shifted slightly. Go on. Rehan took a breath. This entire plan, he said, gesturing to the fleet, relies on one assumption. Voss narrowed her eyes. Which is? That we'll respond the way they expect. The beat. Rehan smiled. Not with confidence. Not with certainty. But with something far more dangerous. Intent. So we don't. Silence. Then Armin let out a slow breath. You're talking about doing something unpredictable. Rehan nodded. Not just unpredictable, he said. Unacceptable. Another alert. Closer. Louder. The fleet was almost within engagement range. Time was gone. Options were gone. All that remained was risk. Commander Voss studied him for a long moment. What are you proposing? Rehan didn't answer immediately, because what he was about to say went against every rule, every protocol, every logical response to overwhelming force. He looked back at the display, at the fleet, at the inevitability of it all, then said quietly, "We don't defend Earth." The pause. Confusion. Armin stared at him. What? Rehan didn't look away. We make them think they've already lost. No. The word came fast. Automatic. Armin stepped forward, disbelief written across his face. We don't defend Earth? That's your plan? Rehan didn't flinch. It's the only plan that works. Commander Voss watched him closely. Not rejecting it. Not accepting it. Evaluating. Explain, she said. Rehan moved to the central console, pulling up multiple overlays. Fleet trajectories, communication networks, sensor ranges. They're stronger than us, he began. Faster, more advanced, more coordinated. If we fight them directly, we lose. Instantly. No one argued. Everything they're doing, he continued, is built on control. Predictability. They isolate, contain, eliminate. He tapped the display. They win because they understand the battlefield. Armin crossed his arms. So we change the battlefield. Rehan nodded once. Exactly. The projection shifted. Highlighted. One by one. Its systems began to disappear. Orbital platforms, offline. Defense grids, silent. Communications, dark. Step 1, Rehan said, we vanish. A long pause. Voss's eyes narrowed. You're suggesting we shut everything down. Everything visible, Rehan corrected. No signals. No movement. No resistance. Armin frowned. That makes us look weak. No, Rehan said quietly. It makes us look wrong. He brought up alien behavioral models. Risk assessment patterns. Decision trees. They expect resistance, he said. They've modeled it. Prepared for it. Counted on it. He zoomed in. But if there's no resistance, no response. The projections began to destabilize. Simulated outcomes branching wildly. Conflicting results. They lose certainty. Voss stepped closer. Uncertainty doesn't stop a fleet. No, Rehan agreed. But it slows it down. Makes them hesitate. He pulled up another layer. Small craft signatures. Minimal energy footprints. Step 2, he said, we don't stay gone. Armin leaned in. What does that mean? Rehan's expression sharpened. We appear where we shouldn't be. The room went still. Inside their formation, Rehan continued. Small teams. Minimal detection profiles. No direct engagement. Armin blinked. You want to board their ships? No, Rehan said. The beat. Not physically. He brought up the alien sensor architecture, mapped from Helix 9 data. They rely on integrated systems, shared networks, Cross-referenced data streams. He tapped again. So we don't attack the ships. The display shifted, now showing internal systems, communications, environmental controls, targeting interfaces. We attack perception. Silence. Understanding. Slow. Uncomfortable. Armin exhaled. You want them to think we're already inside. Rehan nodded. Every system glitch. Every signal delay. Every anomaly. He looked around the room. We make it look like us. Vasa's voice was quieter now. That's not a bluff. That's psychological warfare. Rehan met her gaze. It's the only kind we can win. Another alert pulsed. The fleet was closer now. Minutes, not hours. We don't have time to deploy something like this, an officer said. Rehan shook his head. We don't build it. We already have it. He pointed to the system network. Their tech is advanced, but it's still systems. Logic. Interfaces. The beat. Those can be manipulated. Armin let out a short breath. You're saying we use their own infrastructure against them? Yes. And if it fails? Rehan didn't hesitate. Then we were already dead. Silence. Heavy. But different now. Focused. Because for the first time since the fleet appeared, there was a move. A real one. Commander Voss straightened. Execution timeline? Rehan didn't look away from the display. Immediate. Orders snapped into motion. Begin shutdown sequence, all visible systems. Reroute power to covert channels. Sensors scanned Earth. Cities still visible. But no signals. No defenses. No response. Confusion spread. This is inconsistent, one officer reported. Where is their fleet? Another asked. No answer. The first glitch. Minor. A flicker in the targeting system. Dismissed. Then another. Communications delay. A report. Unidentified signal inside lower decks. Impossible, someone said. Another report. Environmental systems fluctuating, Sector 3. False reading. Visual confirmation, movement detected in restricted zone. Silence. The command deck stilled. Because the one thing they feared was already happening. Back on Aegis 7, Rehan watched the incoming data streams. Dozens of them. Then more. Reports spreading across the fleet. Inconsistencies. Contradictions. He exhaled slowly. It's working. Armin stared at the screen. They're turning on each other. Not yet, Rehan said. But they're starting to doubt. And doubt was the one variable the Virex had never learned to control. The Virex flagship descended into disorder. Not chaos. Not yet. But the kind of fracture that spreads silently, system by system, assumption by assumption. Report. The command voice was sharp, controlled, but beneath it, something had shifted. Uncertainty. Multiple anomalies across fleet, the sensor officer replied. Environmental inconsistencies, signal interference, unauthorized access flags. Source. The pause. Unconfirmed. That answer should not have existed. Across the formation, identical reports echoed. Unidentified movement detected. Internal systems responding without command input. Visual confirmation pending. The first visual. A flicker on a lower deck feed. A shape. Humanoid. Gone before it could be isolated. The officer monitoring the feed froze. Contact. The word spread faster than any command. Impossible, another snapped. Shields are intact. No breach signatures. Then how are they inside? Someone else demanded. No answer. Because the models didn't account for this. Couldn't. On the central display, red indicators began appearing. Not outside the ships. Inside them. Dozens. Then more. Every system flagged something slightly different. Movement. Heat signatures. Data corruption. Not enough to confirm. More than enough to fear. Containment protocols. The commander ordered. Seal internal sectors. Restrict movement. Identify intrusions. The fleet responded instantly. Doors locked. Compartments sealed. Sensors recalibrated. Still, the reports continued. Deck 12, visual contact again. Lost it. Engineering reports system override. Override by what? Unknown. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was collapsing. Because for the first time, the Virex weren't in control of the battlefield. On Aegis 7, Armin leaned closer to the display, watching the data flood in. They're seeing things, he said. Rehan didn't look away. They're interpreting what we want them to see. Another spike of signals. Panic indicators rising. Crew movement patterns destabilizing. They think we're everywhere, Armin added. Rehan nodded once. That's the idea. Back on the flagship. Report all confirmed contacts, the commander demanded. The pause. None confirmed. Silence. Clarify. All sightings are inconsistent. No sustained visual. No physical evidence. A longer pause. Then quieter. But the systems are compromised, the officer finished. The commander stared at the display. Internal alerts. Contradictory data. Crew responses escalating. And no clear enemy. Deactivate non-essential systems, it ordered. Reassert control. Sir, if we reduce system integration we lose? Do it. Across the fleet, systems began shutting down. Communications slowed. Coordination fractured. Isolation increased. Exactly as planned. On Aegis 7, Rehan finally stepped back from the console. It's done, he said. Armin frowned. Done? We didn't need to, Rehan cut in. The beat. Then he looked at him. We were never on their ships. Silence. Realization. Armin blinked. Wait. Rehan gestured to the data. All we did was introduce noise, he said. Signal interference. System lag. Minor inconsistencies. He tapped the display. The rest. He gave a small, sharp smile. They did to themselves. Armin stared at the screen again. At the chaos spreading through a fleet that hadn't been touched. They filled in the gaps. Exactly, Rehan said. They were already afraid of us. Already expecting something they couldn't predict. He exhaled slowly. So we gave them just enough to believe it was happening. On the flagship, the commander stood motionless as reports continued to degrade. No confirmed enemy. No identifiable threat. But total loss of certainty. Withdraw. The word was quiet, but absolute. Every officer froze. Confirm, one said carefully. The commander didn't hesitate. Full fleet withdrawal. Immediate. The pause. This engagement is compromised. Cross the formation. Ships broke alignment. Not in panic. Indecision. Strategic retreat. On Aegis 7, the red markers began to shift. Pulling back. Slow at first. Then faster. Armin let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. They're leaving. Rehan watched the display in silence. Not celebrating. Not yet. Because this wasn't a victory of. It was something else. Something far more fragile. Back on the flagship, one final report came through. External systems stabilized. No further anomalies detected. The pause. There were never any confirmed intrusions. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. The commander stared at the data. At the absence of evidence. At the decision already made. They manipulated perception, it said quietly. No one responded. Because they all understood what that meant. They hadn't been invaded. They had been convinced they were. On Aegis 7, Armin shook his head slowly. We just bluffed an entire fleet. Rehan didn't smile this time. Not just a bluff, he said. The beat. We pressed the only button they couldn't defend against. The stars looked the same. That was the strangest part. After everything, the fleet, the silence, the moment where extinction had been measured in minutes, the universe hadn't changed at all. Still quiet. Still indifferent. Still vast. Lieutenant Armin Hale stood once again at the observation deck of Aegis 7, hands resting lightly against the glass as Earth rotated below. Blue. alive, unaware of how close it had come. Behind him, the station had returned to motion. Systems rebooting. Voices steady again. Orders becoming routine. But something fundamental had shifted. Not in the machines. In them. "You're thinking too much." Armin didn't turn. He recognized the voice. Dr. Rehan Malik stepped beside him, arms folded loosely, gaze drifting toward the fading edge of the Virex fleet, now nothing more than distant points retreating into darkness. "We didn't win," Armin said after a moment. Rehan tilted his head slightly. "No." Armin exhaled slowly. "We didn't beat them. We didn't outgun them. We didn't even touch them." The pause. "Exactly," Rehan said. Armin frowned, finally glancing at him. "That doesn't bother you?" Rehan met his gaze. "No," he said simply. Then he looked back out at the stars. "It should bother them." Silence settled between them again. But it wasn't empty. It was processing. Understanding. Armin's eyes drifted back to Earth. "They called us a containment risk," he said quietly. Rehan nodded. They weren't wrong. That answer landed harder than expected. Armin studied him. "You actually agree with them?" Rehan took a breath. "Look at what we just did," he said. "We didn't match their strength. We didn't match their technology." He tapped lightly against the glass. "We found the gap in how they think, and we used it." Armin didn't respond immediately, because there wasn't an easy counter to that. "They're predators," Rehan continued. "Every model they have is built on dominance, control, predictable outcomes." A faint smile touched his expression. "But we're not predictable." Armin thought back. To the arena. To the lab. To the moment Rehan had walked into a lethal environment without hesitation. "We don't stop," he said. Rehan nodded once. "And we don't think the way they expect." Another pause. Longer this time. Then Armin asked the question that had been sitting in the back of his mind since it all ended. "Is that what scares them?" Rehan didn't answer immediately. He watched the stars. The distance. The unknown waiting beyond it. Then quietly, "No." Armin frowned. "No." Rehan shook his head slightly. "That's what concerns them. The beat." Then he turned, expression sharper now, clearer. "What scares them is what comes after." Armin held his gaze. "Which is?" Rehan's voice dropped just enough to carry weight. "That we don't just survive." The pause. "We cooperate." The word hung there. Simple. Obvious. And suddenly, massive. "Any predator can fight," Rehan said. "Any species can evolve to endure." He gestured toward Earth. "But we build." Images flickered in Armin's mind. Cities. Networks. People helping people for no immediate gain. Strength shared instead of hoarded. "We protect our weakest," Rehan continued. "We scale that protection. We turn individuals into systems." Another pause. "And systems into something bigger." Armin looked back at Earth. Not fragile anymore. Not small. Something else. Something growing. "So what are we then?" he asked quietly. Rehan considered that for a moment, then answered, "We're the species that turns survival into momentum." Far out in the darkness, the last traces of the Virex fleet disappeared. Not defeated. Not destroyed. But changed. Because now they understood something they hadn't before. Not fully. Humans weren't dangerous because of their strength. Or their endurance. Or even their unpredictability. They were dangerous because, once they decided to move forward, they didn't do it alone. And nothing in the galaxy was prepared for that.